Thank you for joining us on Suncoast FYI. I'm your host, Nancy O'Neill. Our guests today are Rex Troche, Chief of the Sarasota Police Department, Mary Benzel, Executive Director for the Van Wezel, and Sandra Frank, CEO of All Faiths Food Bank. Chief Troche, as one might imagine, has a very busy schedule, yet he has added a new dimension to the scope of his work. Chief Troche recently launched a free podcast called Chat with the Chief, and he's here to share all the details with us. Well, thank you for taking more time out of your busy schedule to be here. It's a pleasure to meet you.
Pleasure to meet you.
Honestly, thank you.
Thank you for having me.
Of course. What prompted you to start your podcast, Chief?
So the reason we started the podcast, there's a few things involved there. First off, COVID really separated us from people, right? Meetings were canceled. We couldn't have these town halls that we like to have. And then the second part is sometimes when we would have these town halls, not many people would show up. And quite often it was more officers than people that were there. So I was talking one day with my kids and I noticed they're into these podcasts and I'm like, there might be something here. They're telling me how they listen to it in the car or when they're working out. And then I just had the idea, why don't we do a podcast, essentially a town hall podcast, where people can listen to it on different topics while they're working out, cooking, taking a walk with their dog. And I just thought that would be easier and we would be showing more respect for other people's time as well, because they could listen to it anytime they wanted to.
And I know that you have numerous social media platforms. I mean, you're on Spotify and Instagram and
YouTube.
YouTube.
I'm old, so I say YouTube, but my kids would say a bunch of others. But yeah, we try to hit all the social platforms. And actually what's great about this podcast is you can listen to it on all of those. You can even listen to it on YouTube. I was talking to a friend the other day, he's like, I'm trying to listen to your podcast, but I don't have Spotify and I don't have this. And I said, do you have YouTube? And he's like, well, yeah. I go, you can listen to it on YouTube.
I found it.
Yeah.
So, you know, if I can do it, there are people out there that, you know, it's easier to do.
We try to make it easy.
Yeah. So what are you hoping to accomplish with your podcasts, sir?
I'm really trying to humanize police. I'm really trying to show that there's another side to police officers, that they have families, they live in the same community, they have the same dreams and aspirations as everyone else. Hopefully in some of the interviews it's funny and they see that officers do have a sense of humor. We weren't born a certain way out of a certain box and then chiseled out and then this is what we are. We all at some point wanted to be doctors, lawyers, business people, and for whatever reason this is what came into our life. And also I'm just trying to get information out. And what's great is people can send in questions. So we try to cover that throughout the interview and the podcast, but if we don't, then we'll just ask the questions straight from the piece of paper if they didn't come up. And we're just trying to communicate to the people in the community what's going on, what we're doing about it, because sometimes I think people don't see us and they think we're not there doing anything about it. So when we tell them about the numbers and the number of contacts or number of citations we're writing or some of the challenges that we agree with when it comes to certain areas in the city about roundabouts, you know, we get it.
And you talk about that on one of your podcasts. What are some of the other topics that you've covered recently?
Yeah, so we talk about traffic and roundabouts in one episode, and we just ask people to show grace when they're going into roundabouts, right? To show a little grace and have a little patience. And then the other one is our homeless outreach team, which everyone's concerned about homelessness. And so we want to explain to them that we are doing things about it, that we have teams of people out there. You may not see them, but they're out there. And I kind of liken it to a construction site. You might drive by a construction site and go, oh, there's the bulldozer, there's a guy standing there, they're not doing anything. But then you come back after work and you're like, it's halfway built. Well, it happens when you're not seeing it, and that's what we're trying to convey as well. And then the third one was a iPad technology giveaway within the city as well, to just an underserved population that we thought was really important to explain to the city why we're doing it and show that yes, we're police officers, and yes, we enforce the law, but we also address social issues. And so we thought that would be just a great way to get that message out.
Now, what type of feedback have you received so far? I know there's pros and cons,
Yeah.
and you can't make everybody happy,
Yeah.
but what do you feel that you can take away that feels good?
I think the majority, the 80 to 90% of the people are very appreciative of the communication and then the feedback that we get from social media. And listen, it's not always going to be positive. We can't appease everybody.
Right.
We do try to, but if people are just patient and they understand that we're trying to do the best for the community, not just take people to jail, we're trying to help people socially as well, so that they can have opportunities with employment, school, so they can better themselves, and then really does reduce crime on the other end.
Well, I think when people, like you said, see you as a human being and not just a uniform. I think when you get out there in the community and do things, I know you were talking about on one of them, that you give backpacks out to kids before they go back to school, or haircuts, so that they look good and they feel good about themselves. It's all about, your perception.
Right.
And you want to be just another one of us.
Right.
Basically.
And it's
so.
funny you say that, because we always say if you look good, you're going to feel good, and you feel good, you're going to do good.
Yeah.
And we want that first day of kids going back to school to feel confident about themselves, so that they immerse themselves in their studies and they just do better. That's all we ask.
Well, we're going to run all of the platforms across the bottom of the screen so people will know how to find you.
Yes, ma'am.
And just a personal, where is it taped? Because I listened to it and I'm thinking,
Yeah.
where do they do this? Because it's not in the studio.
Yeah, we kicked around a few ideas, and then eventually we decided that we were going to tape them in our interview and interrogation rooms.
That must make your guests feel comfortable.
Right. It's kind of awkward when they first come in there. They don't know if they're being read Miranda rights, and they should have their attorney. But we joke about it all the time. But really, it's really worked out very well for us, and
great.
We're sitting very close. It's intimate, and we love it. We love it.
Well, I look forward to listening to more of your podcasts, sir. Thank you so much for being here today.
Thank you. Thanks for having me.
What's Friday Fest at the Van Wezel? Well, it sounds exciting, so stay with us and we'll learn more.